I hope everyone had a safe holiday for those that celebrated. Paris Haute Couture Week is coming to a close, and I can't stop thinking about Paris. No, I'm not talking about the collections, although most were fab. I'm talking about the heat. If you've ever lived through a Virginia, Washington, D.C., or New York summer, you understand a certain kind of heat. The kind where air conditioning is a must. All summer, you walk outside expecting humidity. You're already anticipating the sweating. You are constantly looking for the nearest air conditioned building or car. But Paris wasn't built for that kind of heat. Historically, much of Europe didn't embrace air conditioning the way we did in the United States. Summers were milder, buildings were older, the infrastructure reflected a different climate and apparently a different world. But that world has changed. We have watched extreme temperatures hit Paris. We've seen packed cooling centers, people desperately searching for relief, Parisians fighting over fans, and sadly, some have died. Lives have been lost due to the heat. And I keep thinking about what any of this has to do with fashion. My answer is everything. Sometimes I think we've allowed the sustainable fashion conversation to become incredibly small. We talk about thrifting, check. Organic cotton, check. Reusable tote bags, check. Recycling clothes, check. And yes, all of those conversations have a place. But sustainability was never supposed to begin and end inside our closets. Fashion depends on water. It depends on energy, agriculture, manufacturing, transportation, human labor, buildings, cities, weather, climate. Clothing doesn't simply appear on a rack. There is an entire system underneath every garment we wear. And when a city like Paris, a city that has influenced how the world dresses for generations, is struggling through extreme heat, I think we have to connect the dots. Because fashion doesn't exist outside of the environment. You cannot have fashion without people. You cannot have fashion without resources. You cannot have fashion without places where people can safely live, work, create, gather, manufacture, and exist. And then comes Paris Fashion Week. Suddenly, celebrities, editors, guests, and people attending the shows were all talking about how hot they were. The venues were hot. The streets were hot. People were dressing for fashion while physically experiencing the climate that the sustainability conversation has been warning us about. There is something symbolic about that. The fashion industry wasn't observing climate change from a distance anymore. It was sweating through it. And I think that's where we have to expand our understanding of sustainable fashion. Buying vintage instead of new can be part of it. Repairing a garment instead of throwing it away can be part of it. Taking an old brooch, a broken belt, discarded jewelry, or a damaged textile and creating something entirely new from it can absolutely be part of it. I believe deeply in that philosophy. Nothing has to be discarded simply because its first life has ended. A dress can become a skirt. A damaged sweater can become a clutch. A brooch that's broken can become part of a necklace. Something inherited from your grandmother can be altered, reconstructed, and carried into another generation. But even that philosophy exists within something larger. Because ultimately, sustainable fashion isn't only about extending the life of our clothes. It's about protecting the life that surrounds them. Our air, our water, our cities, our resources, the people making our clothing, the people wearing it, and the generations who will inherit whatever kind of world we leave behind. So no, Paris wasn't built for this. but neither was fashion. And the question now isn't simply whether the fashion industry can become more sustainable. The question is whether we are willing to understand what sustainability actually requires. Because buying vintage instead of new is a beginning, but it was never the final destination. Thank you for listening. I'm Tempest, and this has been another FORWHY Memo. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so. Drop a like, leave a comment, or if you just want to follow the journey all together, you can go to the FORWHY website and sign up for our inner circle. Leave us your email address and we'll keep you in the loop of all things in the FORWHY world. Once again, thanks for listening.